One of the biggest struggles of these live streams, by far, is getting the t-shirt at the right angle. Because, like, obviously I want to sit comfortably. And if I didn't have a cool t-shirt, I probably would be able to sit in place all the time. But that's the thing. These t-shirts are conversation starters. I've actually met some really cool people at the gym and at conferences as a result of the t-shirts that I'm wearing. So hopefully you guys can see it all right. I presume that most people who see this particular iteration of Link will know exactly which Zelda game he's from. Makes me wonder if the Link in the Ocarina of Time remake maybe just won't have a hat. Because now that I think about it, that is kind of stupid. Like, why were all the Kokiri wearing those green hats? I get that it was supposed to be like this is why Link wears the green tunic and the green hat in other Zelda games. But there really isn't an explanation for why they wear that stuff. Like, it's not constantly raining, so it's not like in Master Detective Raincoat where that game takes place in a town where it's constantly raining. So you wouldn't need to contextualize why everyone is wearing hats because it's obvious in that game. Like, it's always raining, so of course you wear hats. But why in Kokiri Village? Well, to be fair, not all of them did. I'm pretty sure most of the girls didn't wear hats, but the guys did. So was that? I don't know. Maybe it was just for the Peter Pan comparison. So, in case no one else brings it up, today we got official confirmation that Sonic Frontiers Definitive Edition is real. Like, you all know I hate leaks and rumors, and it was a bit unfortunate that the leakers and the rumors kind of ruined the surprise for this. Because I like going into stuff like directs and announcements with knowing basically nothing. I like to be able to come in and just say, "Oh, cool! That was a neat announcement." I don't think Switch Sports Resort was leaked. I think there were people saying that there was going to be one on the Switch too, but I treat that as more of an inevitability. Like, Switch Sports sold really well. Wii Sports Resort sold stupidly well. So of course Nintendo would want to capitalize on a money-making franchise. It's why they keep making Pokemon games. But I don't think it was leaked that it would be based on Woohoo Island, or is it Woohoo Island? I actually don't know. I think it might have even been a whole different island because it looks quite a bit different than Woohoo Island. Metaphor. I don't think Metaphor was leaked. Well, it was leaked by someone who was pretending to be a leaker. But when that was revealed that was all fake, I'm pretty sure most of us said something along the lines of, well, he may have been lying, but at some point it'll eventually come true because that's just the Switch cycle of things. Something cool comes out on other platforms. Switch owners say, okay, you guys are testing our patience again. And then eventually they give up and say, all right, we'll put it on the Switch and Switch 2 so that you guys can stop belly aching. So at some point, we're going to get Metaphor ReFantazio. I personally am not going to get it. I'm just going to rent it. Because the thing about Persona games is that, in my opinion, they are kind of terrible when it comes to replay value because they're already so long. And usually they don't know when to stop. Like, their end game is just like, okay, that could have ended like 2 hours ago. But I just am so burnt out by the time I finish with a Persona game that I'm like, I do not want to touch this for years. As much as I loved Persona 3 Reload, I don't want to play it again anytime soon. And since I've heard that this was made by the same team that made Persona, it makes me realize, yeah, it's probably going to be a stupid long game, and it's probably going to be one of those games that doesn't know when to stop. But Gamefly hasn't shown any listings for it yet, so we'll see if it even gets a physical release. Um, Either way, I'm happy for those people that wanted to play it on Switch 2 but just couldn't. As far as Deltarune, I really like the direction that Deltarune Chapter 4 took the series in. And I'm hoping that Chapter 5 is. I'm hoping it has a lot of lore. I think that's the only thing I'm realistically expecting. Like, I know Toby. He's the kind of guy that just doesn't do things traditionally. Like chapter 3 caught us all by surprise. I think we all knew it would be like the joke chapter to like ease people's tensions going into the more serious chapters, but I don't think we expected it to play out exactly the way that it did. So in the same way, if chapter 5 is just more Deltarune and then there's like this big revelation about like the nature of everything, I think I'm still going to end up really enjoying it. Star Fox, it might just be that I'm bad at shooters, but I had a really hard time with the demo. And so I'm hoping that maybe that's just because the demo started me off at Meteos when you're supposed to start at Corneria. So maybe like I was just put into too hard of a zone too early in the game. Rhythm Heaven Groove got a demo, and I quite liked it. I actually really like rhythm games, surprisingly. I know I haven't reviewed a ton of them on this channel, but I used to love like Guitar Hero, Dance Dance Revolution. I reviewed all 3 Theatrhythm games, although the only review I suggest you watch is the one for Final Barline. Samba de Amigo, didn't like that one too much, but you know, it had Sonic music, so that prevented it from being a total bore. Donkey Kong Jungle Beat, I wouldn't say is technically a rhythm game, but it was controlled using a pair of bongos. So having Rhythm Heaven Groove actually be a playable Rhythm Heaven game was really nice. And I know at one point I did own Rhythm Heaven Fever. I found it for like $5 at a bargain bin, and I just never played it. And I think if I had to guess what my reasoning was at the time, it was because I got so sick and tired of the Wii remotes draining my batteries. And I think that was before I had rechargeable batteries. So with Rhythm Heaven Groove, the fact that the Joy-Cons are so easy to recharge is going to make me so much happier to play this. And so far, I've had a really good time. It gives across WarioWare energy in the best way possible, even though I know it's not made by the same company. Sonic Frontiers Definitive Edition. Did I mention that earlier? Well, I can mention it more. It was announced today. Oh, I remember why I got sidetracked. It was because I was going on and on about how much I don't like leaks and rumors. I did not like Sonic Frontiers when it first came out on Switch 1. I thought it was confusing, and the performance was iffy, and I thought the voice direction for Sonic was a bit weird. Even though it is technically still Roger Craig Smith, I guess the voice director just told him, like, hey, this is a more serious story, so you gotta talk in more of a low-pitched voice. And apparently that's not changing for the definitive edition. Like, I think we were all hoping that they'd, like, re-record all of Roger's lines, and it doesn't look like they are. But I've heard that Sonic Frontiers got quite a lot of patches and DLC that, like, made it significantly better. And from what I can tell, I was in the vast minority. Like, a lot of people really liked Sonic Frontiers. And I was just one of those people. Maybe it was because I played it on Switch 1. Maybe that's why. Maybe they fixed the map since then. Like, because that was the biggest thing, was I kept being like, where the heck am I supposed to go? This game is so darn confusing. And the fact that they added more playable characters since then, that's pretty cool. A soundtrack player is nice, but I'll definitely be renting it, not buying, because it costs $50, and there's no way to just go straight from Switch 1 to Switch 2. Like, there's no upgrade path like there was for Sonic Racing Cross Worlds, which is. And just when we thought that Sega was listening to the fans, that, oh, look at that, Sonic Racing Cross Worlds um, has a I lost my train of thought because David just show up. Let's see what we got here. You saw my Xenoblade. This is for real. Nice one. Oh, good. Good. I'm glad that I can convince you to give it a try. I would still say Definitive Edition on Switch 1 is playable enough if you're not a frame rate snob, but on the Switch 2, you get the really cool Ether Jet and the voiced heart to hearts, and I don't know, I really like zooming around in the open like that. But welcome in. What's some good news on your end or things that you're looking forward to? And especially if Jevil shows up. Uh, how's your progress on Zero Escape coming along? Classic Sonic. You know what? I know this is an unpopular opinion, but I honestly think that that's pretty genius. Like, think about it. The game is called Sonic Racing Cross Worlds, and I'm pretty sure that classic Sonic is actually meant to be in a different timeline than modern Sonic. Because if he wasn't, modern Sonic wouldn't have been surprised to see classic Sonic, because he would have been like, oh, I guess this is the moment where I met my modern self, but he didn't. So, in a game that's all about crossing into different worlds and different dimensions, I think it makes perfect sense. Now, I think this will give the people that don't like the fact that the DLC is not voiced a bit of ammunition, because they can say, well, classic Sonic's whole thing is that he doesn't talk. Now, am I going to try him out? Nope. Because I'm going to need way more than Sega characters to convince me to try Cross Worlds again. I'm going to need someone like Banjo and Kazooie to bring me back in, because, I like some of Sega's games, but really the only ones that I am like a diehard fan of are Sonic and Persona. Like, everything else besides that, I'm just like, okay. I've never been a big fan of Super Monkey Ball, never really liked Angry Birds. Um, I played a parody of Nights into Dreams, but I didn't actually play Nights itself. Sega stated Crossroads didn't meet. I did see that, and I could have sworn I heard that before it made the news from somewhere. But to be fair, if they're trying to compete with Mario Kart World, that's a losing battle. Like, yes, I do prefer Crossworlds over Mario Kart World, but at the same time, I don't think it has the same broad appeal that Mario Kart World does. Like, Mario Kart World seems like the type of game that like almost anyone can pick up, whereas Sonic Cross World seems like it's more so more for the competitive scene. Making good progress with VLR. Heck yeah. Oh yeah, no, each game gets progressively longer. I would say Zero Time Dilemma feels shorter if you use my guide, because you are skipping. I think there's like an entire chapter that you can skip with my guide. But at the same time, I feel like the reason why they did that is because Virtue's Last Reward had quite a lot of repetition in its story. And I hope you're using the forward button, because that's going to be a game changer in Virtue's Last Reward. How's the TV review coming along? Almost done. I just have to test out the microphone mini games, and then I'll be all set. But welcome in, Matthew. Glad you could make it. What was I going to say? There was something I was going to say to you. Oh, I remember now. I had a blast playing the new Mario Party modes. Um, I had a blast playing frenzy mode and what was the other tag team mode? Oh, that was phenomenal. It was worth getting the expansion just for that. You want to experience everything? Oh, okay. Yeah, you know, the bad endings occasionally add stuff to it, but I think with Virtue's Last Reward, there are definitely some bad endings where like the game actually does not want you to get it and it actually makes fun of you. So, the main reason I gave you that guide, well, first off, let me say hello, Fire and Fiat. Yes, I plan on doing lots and lots of barrel rolls, probably too many when Star Fox comes out. Glad you could make it in. What's some, you got any good news? Anything you're looking forward to? You took those endings. Good luck with that because they have pretty generic names. But I would say, like, the main reason why I would, the main reason why I gave you that guide was so that you could understand the story better. Because I feel like if you just play Zero Escape randomly like I did, you might have to like go back to scenes and like, oh, okay, because that happened. Now this makes more sense. And like, I'm pretty sure my guide is like the most streamlined option out there. Want to play Star Fox Online? Not yet, just because I am so bad at shooters. I want to see if I'm actually good at it, good enough to beat it. Then we'll see. Netflix Avatar season 2. I've actually never even watched Avatar. I watched James Cameron's Avatar, but not the Avatar TV show. I'm sure everyone in here does, because goodness knows I am. It takes me a long time to get into things that are popular. Like, it took me way too long to get into Harry Potter, for example. Watch the anime first? Oh no. I'm I'm generally not a big fan of anime, but I've heard that like people that don't like anime like Avatar. So we'll have to see. E- All right, if you convince me to watch it, I'll have to find a way to watch it because generally speaking, I don't really like watching TV without my sister. And at this point, the only TV shows that we actively want to watch is the Harry Potter TV show. Um, we might watch the Avengers Doomsday and possibly the new Spider-Man, but that's only if she wants to. Like if she never ends up wanting to watch them with me, I probably won't get around to them either. You watched it in your 20s and it held up really well? Okay. That's good to know. I guess my big thing with anime is that they rely a lot on cliches, both in the animation and in the plot. And again, I play games that have anime elements to them, but I would much rather play a game that's based on an anime than just flat out watch an anime. It's made by two American creators. It borrows the aesthetic of anime, but the storytelling is much more Western. You'll have to let me know what it means to have a Western storyline because, again, I'm pretty uncultured. I mean, the again, I'm probably sounding like I'm on loop, but Harry Potter is really the biggest thing that I know about. I've definitely watched and read Lord of the Rings, not a big fan of them, but I wouldn't say I'm a diehard Lord of the Rings fan as much as I am Harry Potter. Harry Potter, I'm such a diehard fan of that when I went to the Catholic Creator Conference, there were quite a lot of people that really enjoyed hearing my perspectives on like the Catholic elements of the series. And I think if more people, if there was a way that I could reach a broader demographic with that kind of conversation topic, I feel like a lot of people would see Harry Potter differently. Although, to be fair, I think we're past the era of people saying, oh, it's witchcraft, oh, it's evil, blah, 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 all that stuff. Like, I'm not going to pretend that it's perfect. But I think overall, the good messages completely outweigh the bad. And I would say that a lot of the quotes that Dumbledore says are really relevant to today's culture. Like, he has some words of wisdom that I think people nowadays should really take heed of. The irony is that the people criticizing Rowling are the people that aren't taking Dumbledore's advice. Pokemon, yeah, yeah. But to be fair, I think there's more of a case against Pokemon than there is Harry Potter, because a lot of the trainers have the Pokemon fight other Pokemon just for the sake of like getting a badge. Now, I don't know if that's the case in the anime, but it does seem like that in the games. Like, it's all just a sport to them. And they say the Pokemon faint, but like there's no explanation as to why they faint and don't like die. So I think that's just a convenient excuse to make people be willing to give it a try. But what it really is are humans being lazy, forcing animals to do all the work, and doing it just for the fun of it. Whereas, like, at least in Harry Potter, like, the people that use magic for fun and abuse are the people that are, portrayed as evil. And it's pretty obvious that they're evil because people are like screaming, and um, there's torture involved, and it's presented as this horrible, terrible thing, whereas Pokemon kind of glorifies all that. Now, to be fair, you could make the argument that Smash Brothers is the same thing. But again, there's just so much context behind everything that makes it so that you could make the argument that any piece of media is anti-Christian. You could even make the argument that The Chosen, people could make the argument that The Chosen is satanic because, oh, it has stuff that wasn't in the Bible. But I don't think The Chosen ever tried to make a definitive claim that it was trying to retell the Bible. It was trying to give a guess as to, like, how could the events of the Bible play out that weren't written in scripture. And I think they did a pretty decent job of saying, like, okay, yeah, this feasibly could have happened. I mean, as far as I can tell, there's no like definitive, like, oh, that is very much against Catholic doctrine. Um, Even the way that they handle Mary, I know that the show was made by a bunch of Protestants, but it does have a surprising amount of Catholic undertones in it, probably because the creator consulted with quite a lot of priests and rabbis of varying denominations, including Catholics. And Jonathan Rumi, the actor who plays Jesus, he's Catholic. In fact, he's so Catholic that he's gotten a chance to meet the Pope. And he was interviewed by Father Leo, who has the YouTube channel, The Father Leo Show. And you have to be pretty darn Catholic to get an audience on Father Leo's show, from what I can tell of him. What I like about Father Leo is that he seems like he's trying to re-emphasize the idea of reverence in the Catholic Church. He talks about like what's proper, what's appropriate, and all that stuff. And I think that's a real lost art in the Catholic Church because at my parish, people talk quite a lot before Mass starts. And I guess that's not technically prohibited, but boy, does it take you out of the experience when you're trying to like bask in the presence of Jesus, and then you've got like all these people that are acting like it's a picnic. Um, but at the same time, it's important that we don't invent our own traditions when it comes to faith. Like, I know so many people will act as though something that's private revelation is public. And what you have to realize is that I'm pretty sure either one of the councils or the magisterium or someone said that the public revelation ended with the death of the apostles. Do I go to my church on other days than Sunday? Sometimes Saturdays. Because I'm sure you know this, but in the Catholic Church, Saturday from 4 o'clock onward is considered a Sunday vigil because it's based on how the Jewish people perceived time. So if I ever say, I don't know, have a hangout on Sunday and I want to have more time, I might go Saturday afternoon instead of Sunday. But they treat it like a Sunday mass because it's after 4. But when I went to the Catholic Creator Conference, I went to mass every day. And it was amazing. I'm not going to lie. Um, I don't know if I'll be able to do that in this current town, but whenever I've gone to Catholic events that have daily mass, I've always really, really liked it. Like, I like the idea of mass with a community of people that all have a shared purpose. Like, don't get me wrong, there's really no such thing as a bad mass. You might not get a lot out of it, but that doesn't invalidate the mass itself. Whereas, like, when I was at the Catholic Creators Conference, I could tell that every single person that was at mass with me was either like someone from Steubenville that was like trying to get something out of their faith or from the Catholic Creators Conference. And you could tell that pretty much no one there was forced, that it was a voluntary decision. Now, to be fair, I wasn't like looking around to see if everyone was there because technically we didn't have to go to everything at the Catholic Creator Conference. And that I'm definitely guilty of that. I did sleep through a couple of the talks, but I went to most of what the conference had to offer. It was really only 2. So if Fire and Fiat is still here, the only talks that I skipped were the one that said philosophy in it, which people later said that was inaccurate on the agenda listing, and the guys only talk, because I've never been a big fan of separated talks, mainly because my youth group did not like the idea of guys and girls talking to each other at youth group. That backfired on them spectacularly because there were at least uh, at least 2 people that ended up being married through the youth group. Guys only talk. Yeah, that's a very common thing at Catholic events where they'll say like, okay, this talk is going to be for all the guys and this talk is going to be for all the girls. And in my youth group, they took it a step further by every single time the youth group was about to end, they'd say, okay, guys, you have your talks in this room and the girls will have it in the other, and the girls would be in the room with all the snacks. So we definitely felt like there was a bit of favoritism there. And then there was this weird thing where they felt like guys and girls had to have different times for confession, which I thought, okay, like, I get that you really want to separate guys and girls, but like teenagers can handle themselves a little bit. Like, give us a little bit of credit. Is it trying to define masculinity through the Catholic lens? I don't know about the Catholic Creators Conference. You'll have to ask Fire and Fiat. But I know in my youth group, actually, I don't even remember if I'm being honest. I kind of zoned that part out because I was so fed up with it. I was like, I am perfectly capable of talking to girls without necessarily thinking about sex. You got that from a scary movie where Ghostface said that. Sorry, Jevil, I think I lost what you're trying to say, but welcome in. I'm gonna beat you to it for once. Sonic Frontiers Definitive Edition just dropped. Is that something you're interested in, or are you more just hyper focused on Deltarune for now? Deltarune Chapter 5 tomorrow, to be exact. Oh, I am so pumped. I what's the word? I think I'm at the point where I think I like Deltarune better than Undertale. Well, No, I think I would still say that. Chapter 3, in my opinion, was my least favorite chapter. But, you haven't beat chapter 3? Oh, man. Well, I don't blame you. That can be pretty frustrating at times. Just talk to everyone, I would say, is the best piece of advice I can give. You still have to play Undertale. So the thing about Undertale is that I'm I'm of the belief that Undertale has an inherently Catholic message from an inherently anti-Catholic creator. So I feel like you really have to pick and choose, like, how much of the game are you really going to hyperanalyze? Like, Toby is very much a supporter of stuff that the Catholic Church does not approve of. Like, there's a gay shipping that's required to get the true ending. And I think there's also like a side quest that involves a trans character. Um, but I personally just love the idea of showing mercy and like why goodness triumphs over evil. Like, I think that's such a good message that I look past all that stuff. You play other games like Lego games and those games too. Oh, I see. Gotcha. Well, Deltarune chapter 3 is a pretty short chapter. It feels long by Deltarune standards, though. So, yeah, to be fair, yeah, I can see why you would want to do that. People were being obnoxious about it, kind of like Expedition 33. I was very fortunate that by the time I got into Undertale, it was in 2018 when it finally came to the Switch, and I was so thankful that I had next to no exposure to it. I think literally there were like two things I knew about it, and that was that there was a skeleton named Sans that everyone loved, and it was made in RPG Maker, so like the graphics looked old school, but it had like new school techniques, and that's like all I knew. And going into it with that mindset, um, it made it my number 2 game of 2018, and I would still stand by that. Now, Expedition 33, I have never played. I don't know much about that either. I just know that like it's like Persona and Mario and Luigi put together. There's a girl named Mayel in there. The only reason I know that is because I know a girl in real life named Mayel, and she's also a redhead. And she said that when she found out about Mael and Expedition 33, she got a chuckle out of it because that's not a very common name, especially the fact that they're both redheads. But yeah, no, I'm very thankful that I've for the most part stayed spoiler free for that as well. A show of Undertale, that would be neat. I would really like to see that, especially the showdown against Metaton. I'd love to see that be done in like a TV show. I think after Deltarune, Toby Fox should just take a break. Like that guy has just been way too busy with with Deltarune. Like I don't know if I've ever heard of a game taking this long to like actually come out. Like I know there have been games with rough development cycles, like Metroid Prime 4, Bayonetta 3, and Silksong to name a few, but like those games didn't have like chapter by chapter releases. Like I know Telltale games did that for a while where they would release things in increments, which is why I'm really grateful that when Life is Strange came to the Switch, it was just the complete package. You didn't have to download individual episodes. But I would say for Undertale, from my experience playing it without the rabid fan base perspective, and obviously Jevil is an even bigger fan of Undertale than I am, as evidenced by his name, which is named after a secret boss in Deltarune. It's just got such a neat premise to its battle system where the game actively encourages you not to kill people and to like make friends with the bosses. And it leads to some really fun bullet hell type of gameplay. He's young. You finally got to see a face reveal. Oh, Toby revealed his face quite a long time ago. It's just that once he started making Undertale, he kind of like became more of a recluse. So if you know where to look, like Toby's done a few things online here and there. I think it's okay to say that the boss exists as long as you don't talk about how to get to him. Personally, I feel like it should be at the very least said that there are secret bosses in Deltarune, because I feel like the big thing about Deltarune that really kind of took me off guard when I first played the first 2 chapters were that it felt really easy. And the secret bosses were like it was almost as if they were mocking you for saying, "You think our game's too easy? Try to take us on." But they're so secret that I could see a lot of players, like, not even knowing that they exist and thinking, "Oh, that's it?" But yeah, if you want, like, some of the hardest attack patterns in gaming history, just search for those secret bosses. Hmm. So, is anyone here excited about Sonic Frontiers Definitive Edition? I feel like I've said that over and over again, but I don't think I stayed focused long enough to actually hear you all out. Before any of you showed up, I mentioned while I was just waiting for people to come that I didn't like Sonic Frontiers when I played it on Switch 1, but I'm willing to give it a try because I've heard that quite a lot of it was patched since then. So I played it when it first came out, and that was a big mistake. But I have heard that the Sonic fandom really likes Sonic Frontiers quite a lot, which is surprising because, like, I used to think that I agreed with most of the Sonic fandom, but I guess apparently not, because there are people out there that really don't like Sonic Forces, and yet I actually like Sonic. I don't love it. I think there are definitely parts of it that are frustrating, but I would be lying if I said that I didn't have at least somewhat of a good time playing it. Good thing about Deltarune, you don't have to 100%. Yeah, yeah, that's true. They are the kind of games that you kind of only want to play once or twice in the case of Undertale. You didn't even play the original Sonic Frontiers. So the problem with the original Sonic Frontiers is that well, on Switch 1 I should say. Probably on other systems it was a lot better. But on Switch 1 it had a lot of pop-in, a lot of glitches. It was apparently it had a really like abrupt ending, and then they like completely patched out that original ending to make it better. And I'm just hoping they have a better map system going into Definitive Edition. But one thing that's really angering me is that apparently it's not like a Switch 2 edition, like it's genuinely a new game. Like you have to buy it all over again, even if you already have the Switch 1 version, which I think is just insanely stupid because Sonic Racing Cross Worlds had a Switch 2 edition. I guess like maybe the visual upgrades are just too much. I don't know. I think Sega is just hit or miss when it comes to their fan service. Cuz like they're giving you so much free stuff in Sonic Racing Cross Worlds, and then they're like fork over a flat out $50 for this Frontiers Switch 2 edition when realistically it probably should be a lot less. The routes are hard. Yeah. Yeah, don't I know it. Yeah, I remember when I first played Undertale, I found that it was hard but very rarely frustrating. Like it was the kind of game where like once you knew the patterns, then you found that it gradually became more and more forgiving. Deltarune, you could more or less cheese Deltarune quite a lot. But as the game progressed, I did find that the battles did require like genuine skill. Like I'm sure you've seen the meme of chapter 4. Like once you get to that battle, you'll realize that Toby is really starting to step up his game in the later chapters. Although I'm also willing to admit that part of why I found chapters 3 and 4 to be harder was because chapter 3 has a very retro aesthetic, and I am not a big fan of that approach. But thankfully, once it's over, like, oh, Deltarune just gets so much better after that. So, why am I losing my train of thought today? I had a really good nap, too. That's what's weird. I had a really good nap. I had a good time at the gym. Well, maybe that's why. Maybe the gym is tiring me out. When you want to get an ending in Undertale or route in Deltarune, just look up a guide. Yeah, that's true. There are actually quite a lot of hidden requirements in those games. I remember when I first played Undertale, I didn't realize what I was doing wrong to get the true ending. And I think I do remember I looked up a guide because I was like, how the heck was I supposed to figure that out without one? Because it can be pretty obtuse at times. And I think part of it is the point. uh, it depends on the game with regards to the Game Boy aesthetic. I think Minish Cap looks really good, all things considered. And WarioWare, that's another game that like has surprisingly good production values. But what I mean by Chapter 3 being my least favorite in Deltarune is that it's trying to be a parody of The Legend of Zelda. And you may think, well, Paul, that's great. You love Breath of the Wild. You love Tears of the Kingdom. Yeah, I like the 3D Zelda games, but this is a parody of Zelda 1, which is, in my opinion, that game has aged terribly. And to be fair, I would rather play Deltarune Chapter 3 than Zelda 1, but it did feel very much on the obtuse side, where I was like, that is some really cryptic 80s level puzzle solving that I don't think I don't think I used a guide for that because I played it day one. And by day one, I mean I got the Switch 1 version, which actually came out a day before the Switch 2 did. So, like, there was no one around to help me through Chapter 3. I think at one point I just was trying to talk to everyone and deciphering all those cryptic hints, which in retrospect aren't as cryptic as I thought. The static gameplay and its music of the Game Boy Advance or DS in that sense wouldn't be a picky music. Yeah, that's true. But, there is one DS game that I feel like has insanely good. I stand corrected. I was going to say 999, but I'm actually not a big fan of 999's music. There's a few that are really good. Like the theme that plays when someone's about to die. Like, I think that was fantastic. Morphogenetic Sorrow. Um, Morphogenetic Sorrow is just a masterpiece. And in my opinion, I feel like it's the unofficial theme song of the whole Zero Escape series because it's so iconic. But yeah, I just feel like 999's music tries really hard to make you feel uncomfortable, which I get. It's the point. Like, the game is supposed to feel uncomfortable. But at the same time, I feel like a good soundtrack is one that you would want to listen to out of context just as much as you would while playing the game. Like Mario Kart World, for example, now that that game has more of its music on Nintendo Music, I can like really come to the realization of, wow, that this game has a phenomenal soundtrack. Not perfect. There are definitely some rock pieces that I'm not a big fan of, but I would say there's more hits than misses in Mario Kart World. The score of 999 shares some similarities with Silent Hill 1. Interesting. Maybe that's where they got it from. You grew up with the GBA. You don't like slow music. Okay. Guess you wouldn't like Mario Kart World's music all that much, because there's quite a lot of slow music in that game too. Um, I would say my favorite tracks in Mario Kart World are the big band ones. Like the arrangement that they did for like Bob on Battlefield in particular is just so incredible. Like I love Super Mario 64, not as much as I used to, but like I really do love Bob on Battlefield's theme. I love what they did with it in Super Mario Galaxy 2, and then it's just they just perfected it in Mario Kart World. YouTube, the nurse. Oh, uh, I think I'll pass on that because you all know what my worst fear is. So I think I will save myself the fear. Unless you want to email me the link if it doesn't have a picture, then maybe I would. Unless if it's like too chip tune or too like synthetic, because I'm not a big fan of synthesized music. Not a big fan of electronic music. The only types of music I really like are orchestra, big band, and jazz. Sometimes soul and Latin is pretty decent, but big band and orchestra are typically the big two. Like that's why I love Persona music so much. Is it like I guess you could classify it as like jazz fusion, or at the very least that's what you could classify Persona 5 as. Cuz there's a lot of songs that fit that like slow lazy day type of vibe to it. Um maybe depends. I don't want to say my worst fear here because even the most sensitive people in the world tend to everyone in the world, most people that I encounter when they find out what my worst fear is don't know how to be sensitive about it, and they end up just making the problem worse. So I've given up. I just try to be vague about it so that people will just shut up and stop trying to make things worse. But no, if it's synthetic and not done with real instruments, I probably wouldn't like it anyway. Like I said, there's really only two songs in 999 that I like. And it's Morphogenetic Sorrow, and I think it's called Extreme Extrication, which is the, like I said, the one that plays when someone's about to die or has died. Virtue's Last Reward. Not a big fan of that soundtrack either, but there are three songs from that game that I do really, really like. And that's, well, one of the escape rooms that I won't spoil. That has really good music. Such good music that they remixed it in Zero Time Dilemma. Yep, you were right, Jevil. Bluebird Lamentation. That is the other unofficial theme song of Zero Escape. And what was the third one? Yeah, I just forgot. But in general, Zero Escape is a series that its music is meant to be more of a supplement to the story as opposed to something that you would actively want to listen to. Like when I'm playing Zero Time Dilemma, I feel like the music is perfect. But when I'm just listening to it by myself, I'm just like, get me out of here. This is terrible. Because it's just so fake. Like, I've never been a huge fan of games that use MIDI soundtracks over a real orchestra. And to be fair, Zero Escape doesn't feel like the kind of series that warrants an orchestra, so to speak. Except Bluebird Lamentation, I feel like would be really good with an orchestra, though. So that I could see, but like trying to imagine the escape rooms being played with an orchestra, yeah, it just doesn't fit. So it fits the game, it just doesn't fit casual listening. Yeah, I would say I would say that anyone who hears Bluebird Lamentation, who knows it in context, would probably instantly think of Virtue's Last Reward. Because say what you will about Zero Escape soundtrack, but it's pretty iconic. Like, you could just hear any of the songs out of context and just immediately know that they're there. And I think the same could probably be said about Danganronpa. Although I would say that I'm not quite as familiar with Danganronpa as I am with Zero Escape. So I wouldn't say I'm like an expert on that game's soundtrack. Yes, Undertale has an amazing soundtrack. That is the exception when it comes to MIDI. I feel like Toby Fox has this like special ability to just make music fun to listen to, no matter what the genre was. Oh, heck yeah. No, on Pagel's stream, she has completely different rules, and that's that as long as she's streamed it, anything goes. So like for example, she streamed all of Undertale, so she's perfectly fine with everyone spoiling Undertale. Um but again, I will do a Zero Escape spoiler stream at some point, as soon as you're done with the series. I'm just scared that there might be my one friend who still hasn't finished 999 who's secretly listening to this, and I don't want to ruin it for her. Especially because she's said that she doesn't usually like to talk when she's here. She just likes to listen, and it's like, oh dear, I do not want to be responsible for ruining it. I know she'll eventually get there. There are other games she's interested in. Like, I know that I know that she's really excited for Deltarune. So, Jevil, I bet if you ever got to know her, you guys would get along great. So the funny thing about Megalovania is that it actually didn't debut in Undertale. It actually first appeared in Earthbound, of all things, but not the original game. It was in a hack that Toby made of it called the Halloween hack. And so when Toby made Undertale, he repurposed Megalovania for that. And I do think that it was neat that they put Megalovania in Smash Brothers as a free bonus for buying the Sans Mii costume. Even if I think, like, okay, Toby Fox himself made the arrangement. I think he could have probably done a little bit better of a job to differentiate it from the original. But I think, like, as an incentive to get people to buy it, I feel like he did good enough of a job. I mean, it convinced me. Although, to be fair, I bought all of the Mii costumes because there was a point where I wanted to do more spirit battles and I wanted to like recreate iconic moments. And so I thought that the costumes would be a good way of doing it. You know about make oh wow, that's crazy. Yeah, I would say despite the fact that it didn't originate from Undertale, I think more people know about it through Undertale than they do from the Earthbound hack. Like, I guarantee that if Toby hadn't made Undertale, I think Megalovania would have just faded into obscurity. Because Earthbound has a very, very, very niche fan base. Like, hardly anyone talks about it. But the people that do talk about it, like, basically worship it. Like, the amount of people that, like, want Mother 3 is just insane. And Toby has stated that Undertale's biggest inspiration was Earthbound. So I guess like if you're on the fence about Undertale, like Earthbound would be a good place to start. During the Mii costume reveal in Smash, we got more music. Oh yeah, we didn't get Doomguy music. In fact, there were only 3 Mii costumes in Smash Ultimate that got music with them, and those were Cuphead, Sans, and Shantae. Like Cuphead of all things got music. I think that that is just super cool. Yes, MatPat did give Undertale to Pope Francis, and I think that that was incredible. Um, the thing about Earthbound is that it it's one of those weird battle systems where like you can see the enemies, but you can't see your own player characters. So it kind of takes me out of the immersion a little bit because it feels like it's too much like Dragon Quest. Although to be fair, I've never actually played Earthbound. I just watched a friend play it and I just said, "Yeah, this looks stupid." But Undertale, what separates it from Earthbound is that when you're doing the battles, the objective is to try to figure out how to befriend the enemies, not kill them. And when you're dodging the enemy's attacks, you actually move around and like dodge all the stuff in real time. Whereas in Undertale or Earthbound, you really can't do anything. Like the enemy attacks you, it's just like, okay, you got hit. Um, so it's yeah, there's you kind of have to resign yourself to the statistics in Earthbound. Whereas in Undertale, you could theoretically play the whole game without getting hit once. It would be very hard to do that, but you can. Whereas in Earthbound, good luck with that. You didn't like that about RPGs when you were younger? You came around when, yeah, of course you would get into Dragon Quest. Pope Francis was Italian? You watched the conference Matt Pat was in. Oh, that's neat. I didn't know he live streamed that. That's very cool. Yeah, my history with RPGs is very hit or miss. Like, I like Fire Emblem, the early Paper Mario games. Some Persona games are pretty good. There's one other RPG I got into recently that the Final Fantasy VII Remake trilogy is really good. Not too many others. I'm sure there's a few here and there, but I just forgot about it. I would say that I like Mario RPGs way more than Scott the Woz does. Oh, Xenoblade, yes. Yes, good catch. Duh, of course I should remember that. I just reviewed the Switch 2 edition of Xenoblade. And I plan on reviewing the Switch 2 version of Xenoblade 3 as well, but not 2, because I really don't like Xenoblade Chronicles 2 all that much. I feel like the game does a terrible job of explaining its systems, and I feel like there's way too much grinding in it. Like, don't get me wrong, Xenoblade 1 had its fair share of grinding as well, but it felt like, how do I word this? The grinding in Xenoblade 2 felt like it was there for the sake of being there. Like, you'd get to this bush and you wouldn't be able to proceed because it would say, like, oh, Pyra's fire has to be level 2. And it's like, why does it have to be level 2? That doesn't make any sense. And then the way that you get Pyra's fire to level 2 also doesn't make any sense. So that's why I gave up. And from what it said in the marketing, it doesn't look like they did anything to fix my issues with it. You played Super Paper Mario. Super Paper Mario, in my opinion, the only good thing about that game is the story and the setting. I reviewed that game and I could not stand it. Like, the controls were just so awful that my hand was like cramping up on many different occasions. If it was like maybe played with a nunchuck, I probably would have liked it a lot better. Or maybe if they like re-released the original GameCube build, I think that would be cool. But just forcing you to play on a Wii Remote sideways and some bizarre design choices, like everything in that mansion was just ugh. The rubies part, if you know, you know. Yeah, Xenoblade 2 has poor tutorials. The fan service moments, I'm starting to get to the point where, because I've played Xenoblade Chronicles 3, and that game like goes out of its way to not have fan service, I think it's a lot harder for me to look at Xenoblade 2 with positivity. Because Xenoblade 3, not only does it have like really hardly any fan service, besides like one character might have like big breasts, and that's like the most you'd get. But it also has just such a profound Catholic message. Like, it talks so much about the value of proper family, and like it like puts a lot of emphasis on like how prude America is, and like how we should not be so ashamed of the body. Like, the mixed bath scene having no hints of sexual tension, just absolutely beautiful. And it blows my mind that in 2022, a secular Japanese company would make a game like that. Undertale and Deltarune were inspired a lot by Mario and Luigi. Yeah, that's fair. That probably was the case. The field system was an absolute nightmare in Xenoblade 2. But then again, everything was a nightmare in Xenoblade 2 when I played it. The only parts of the game that I really liked were the music, and the environments were pretty fun to explore. But everything and the side quest tracking was pretty neat. I like how they incorporated that into Xenoblade 1's definitive edition. Sideways Wii Remote, you liked it emulating the controller. Yeah, I can't say the same, unfortunately, because I think with the controllers that it was trying to emulate, like the NES controller, the difference between that and the Wii Remote Sideways is that the NES control pad was big. Like you could put your entire thumb on the middle of it. So it felt comfortable to actually press it. Whereas the Wii Remote's control pad was about as big as my thumb. Or this part of my thumb, I should say. And you felt like if you pressed one direction, you'd press every direction. And it was just really obnoxious. The menu system in Super Paper Mario was also really unintuitive. You made Mio Union working on Melia. Oh, that is so cool. That is really great. I should probably do that if I ever boot up Tomodachi Life again. I guess, yeah, I don't know why I didn't think about that. I think the Wii game that I think handled the best, as far as justifying its existence as a Wii game, was probably Super Mario Galaxy. I feel like that game, the idea of just grabbing Starbits just by pointing an infrared light at that. I think that's, in my opinion, still one of the most genius usages of motion sensing that I've ever seen in a video game. The ball rolling was really fun. The manta ray levels were great. The bubble blowing. There really wasn't a bad gimmick Galaxy. I'm trying to think if I've. The one with the boo racing, that one was pretty bad. Well, Jevil, maybe you just have a tinier thumb than I do. But you know what? I get why Super Paper Mario is so beloved, because it does have really cool set pieces. And I was genuinely hooked on the story and the settings and how they weren't afraid to take Mario to some dark places. But in general, it just was physical pain, the game. And you can definitely tell it was originally meant to be a GameCube game, and they didn't know what to do when they put it on the Wii, but they said, hey, the Wii is the next big thing, so let's just shoehorn it in. They did the same thing with Metroid Other M, and way more people hate that game than Super Paper Mario, even though I would argue Metroid Other M might be a better usage of the Wii Remote Sideways than Super Paper Mario, and yet people give that game the problem. So I don't know. Metroid Prime 3 was good too. Oh, that's cool. Glad to hear it. I probably won't ever play it because you know me with shooters. I am like a toddler trying to shoot hoops when I'm playing shooter games. Although there was one shooter game I played recently. I'm trying to remember what it was that I did decent at. It wasn't Star Fox. Oh, I remember what it was. It was Super Mario Party Jamboree. I played the Carnival Coaster mode in Jamboree TV, and that was decent. I wasn't spectacular at it, but I think it was designed for people that weren't good at shooters. So that's what made it a little bit easier to manage. Yeah, no, the Pixies were great. I just wish they talked more. Besides Tippy, the Pixels only talk when you get them, and then they're mute the rest of the game. To be fair, I'm not a big fan of how the partners were handled outside of battles in the early Paper Mario games. I do think Origami King did way better in that regard. Origami King had better field partners. Thousand Year Door had better battle partners. And I hope the next Paper Mario game just puts together both. But anyway, guys, my throat is a bit sore, so I think I'm going to wrap it up here. Hopefully no one shows up right now and is just like, Paul! And I'm like, oh no. Oh no, I've been live streaming for a whole hour. But, you know, I don't want to be in physical pain while I'm talking to you guys. So let's, I didn't get to do it last time because I was in a hurry, but now I can take my time. So thank you, Jevel. Thank you, David, aka Lodo. Fire and Fiat was here earlier, so thank you. Matthew Rakowski had the one comment, so thank you, Matthew. I think that might be it. We really didn't have a big showing, yeah. All right. Well, you guys have a great rest of your day. Stay tuned for my Deltarune review because I'll probably beat that game in like a day or two. And until the next time, remember to keep the faith, stay epic, and God bless. Bye.